Hello friends, it's me Mr. Wilson and we are reading today What Really Happened to Humpty from the files of a hard-boiled detective. So this was written by Joe Dumpty as told by Jeannie Franz Ransom, so that means Dumpty heard it from them, and illustrated by Stephen Axelson. So Stephen drew our pictures. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Humpty Dumpty was pushed. At least, I think so. Who am I? I am Joe Dumpty, Humpty's younger brother. You probably haven't heard of me. I never was Mother's favorite. Mother Goose, that is. Ever since she became Police Chief Goose, she thinks I'm just stirring up trouble with my detective business. Yes, Mother Goose always liked Humpty the best. He's such a good egg. That's why I think it's a crime that he fell off the wall. After all, he'd been sitting up there for as long as I can remember, with no problems whatsoever, until that awful, scrambled up day. It was just a picture book perfect morning, and the old woman who lives in the shoe had just dropped off her kids at Jack and Jill's daycare center. The three little pigs were putting the finishing touches on their house, and across the field, Humpty was sitting on the wall. I wish I stopped to crack a few jokes with my brother, but it was Humpty's first week as captain of our new neighborhood watch program, and I didn't want to distract him. Besides, it was almost 9, and I had to get to work. I made a quick stop and ran into Little Red Riding Hood. The Muffin Man's scrambling to fill a big order, Red said. I can't even buy one lousy muffin for my grandmother. She sniffed loudly and stomped off in a huff. With my espresso in hand, I headed to the office. As I opened my office door, the phone rang. It was Little Miss Muffet. Joe, something happened to Humpty. I raced to the wall and Miss Muffet was there, cell phone in hand. I called 911, she sobbed. I looked at my brother. He wasn't making a sound. Whoever did this was gonna fry. I walked back around the wall, and that's when I saw it. Something was shiny was tucked underneath Miss Muffet's tuffet. She was on her phone, so I didn't bother asking if I could look under her tuffet. I just did. Sometimes detectives have to act first and ask questions later. Can you guys tell what that is? What do you think it is? And as you're thinking about what you think it might be, how do you think the author uses real parts of nursery rhymes and fairy tales in this plot? Have we noticed some other fairy tales besides Humpty Dumpty? You should have noticed Little Miss Muffet. You should have noticed the three little pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, Mother Goose, Jack and Jill. There's a lot of them. And now on this next page, you're going to see how the author puts part of the nursery rhymes and fairy tales together in this plot of the story. It was a pair of binoculars. Not just any binoculars. These puppies were the official binoculars of the neighborhood watch program. Humpty had been showing them off to me ever since he became captain. Were you looking underneath my tuffet? What are you going to do with those? Muffy asked, grabbing the binoculars. I was just about to ask the same thing when all the king's horses and all the king's men arrived. They couldn't put Humpty together again, so they scooped him up and rushed to the hospital. What's the story? I asked Muffy. I wanted some answers. Muffy sighed. I was just shooting the breeze with Humpty, waiting for Spider. Humpty was letting me try his binoculars when suddenly this huffy, puffy wind blew him right off the wall. Ooh, so she said huffy, puffy wind. Can you think of a fairy tale that has to do with huffy, puffy wind? Think about it. Police Chief Goose pulled up in her big honking cruiser. I was at the Three Pigs, she apologized. The wind we had this morning blew down their new house. I just told Joe that the wind made Humpty fall, Muffy said. I made Humpty fall? Said a small voice out of nowhere. It's my fault, Spider said, dropping down from the tree. I was rushing to get down here by 9 this morning, my usual time, when this puff of wind pushed me straight towards Humpty. I must have scared him, because the next thing I knew, Humpty was on the ground. I zipped home, but I knew I had to fess up. Humpty was my friend. My brother wasn't afraid of anything. That's why he was the perfect neighborhood watch captain. What happened to Humpty wasn't your fault, Spider, I said. Remember Giant? It wasn't anybody's fault, Muffy chimed in. It was an accident. Agreed, Chief Goose said. Go on to the hospital, Joe, she told me. I'll write up the accident report. Accident report? No way. There's no case to crack. But Chief, Humpty's been sitting on that wall for years, without a wobble, I said. Then the first week he's neighborhood watch captain, he suddenly falls off. The same day the pig's house blows down. Coincidence? I don't think so. Chief Goose sighed. Okay, Joe, since Humpty's your brother, I'll give you till 5 o'clock to play detective. If you don't have anything by then, I'm writing the accident report. I didn't have much time. I hurried to the hospital. Thanks to the miracles of modern technology, combined with some nifty techniques the doctors discovered when Jack fell down and broke his crown, Humpty was on the mend. But he didn't remember a thing. I needed to hit the streets and question a few characters myself. My first stop was the Bears. I rang the doorbell 3 times. I was about to give up when the door opened to reveal a barefoot. I was expecting a barefoot. I showed the blonde my badge and asked about the Bears' whereabouts. I'm house sitting, she said, yawning. Late night, I asked. Early morning. Some dog started howling and woke me up. How early? I probed. 9 a.m., she said, but now I'm awake. Want to come in for some porridge? I hated to tell her no, but I was on the clock, and that clock was ticking. So who do you think started howling? So we have wind was blowing, huffing and puffing, and something was howling. What fairy tale character do you think that was? Why do you think, before we move on to the next page, why do you think it was important for the author to include several different fairy tale characters in the story? What are these characters doing? Are they giving Joe some clues? I think they are. I think they're giving him clues to help catch what happened to Humpty. Trying to solve the mystery. So as we move on, pay attention to those fairy tale characters and see what kind of clues they give Joe. Next house I visited belonged to the only dog owner in the neighborhood, Old Mother Hubbard. Maybe her pup had been howling in the morning, but Mrs. H said, I gave my dog to a farmer in the dell last week. He needed help with the sheep, and unlike mine, his cupboard is never bare. Mrs. H shook her head sadly when I told her about Humpty. I never would have done anything to Humpty, not even to feed my poor dog. Maybe you should talk to my neighbor, Mrs. H added. She seemed to be in a big hurry this morning. Chicken Little answered the door, looking more nervous than usual. Am I in trouble? I played it cool. You tell me, I said, keeping a close eye on her in case she tried to fly the coop. If it's about what happened this morning, it's not my fault, Chicken Little said. You know what happened this morning? Of course I know, she shouted. The sky fell, and I didn't warn anyone. I learned to keep my beak shut. The sky didn't fall this morning, I said. Humpty did. From her surprised look, I knew she was innocent. He's going to be okay, I said. I love that egg like it was one of my own. Chicken Little sniffed. I handed the tender chicken a tissue. So tell me, where were you around 9? I said. I was on my morning power walk, she answered. I just passed Muffy and Humpty when the wind howled overhead. I just walked behind the wall, and the next thing I knew, the sky, Humpty, was falling, and I ran straight home. Was Humpty sitting on the wall when you saw him? Yes, but Muffy wasn't sitting on her tuffet, Chicken Little paused. That's funny. She's usually digging under her curds and whey. Funny indeed. As I left my friend clucking to herself and scanning the sky, I heard the commotion coming from the pig's house. What was left of it, anyways. Huff, puff, huff, puff. I need more exercise, I thought as I raced across the field. How many times have I heard people say that today? Not the more exercise part, but the huff, puff part, as in huffy, puffy wind. I found the pigs fighting over of all things, a cell phone. I thought everyone had one these days. Apparently not. Okay, guys, hand it over, I said. Whose phone is this? We don't know, the pig said. We found it this morning after our house blew down. Can we keep it? It has some cool games. Arroo! Just then the phone rang. Actually, it howled. Who would have a howl for a ringtone? I took a guess and disguised my voice. Yo, I growled. I got the binoculars, the voice on the phone said. Now I want my yummy wummy muffins. We had a deal, remember? Be at the wall in 5 minutes. I called Chief Goose and told her to meet me at the wall. The clues were adding up. The muffins that no one else could buy, the howling that didn't come from a dog, the huffy puffy wind, not to mention the binoculars that someone wanted bad. But why? I had a hunch. Ooh, who do you think it is? Leave me a comment below. Who do you think? Muffy was at the wall, binoculars in hand. She didn't look happy to see me, expecting someone else. Expecting someone else, I asked? Someone big and bad, perhaps? She's expecting me, howled the big bad wolf as he jumped out and grabbed the binoculars. Where are my muffins? Screamed Muffy. I'm sick of curds and whey. Sorry, doll. Plans change, growled Wolf. You pushed Humpty off the wall, I said. I'm telling Chief Goose. I wasn't at the wall this morning, Wolf said. But you were at the pig's house, I said, showing Wolf his phone. When you blew down their house, you got Humpty too. Guess you wanted a scrambled egg with your bacon. Wolf just wanted the binoculars, Muffy cried. He promised me some yummy wummy muffins if I'd get them from Humpty. No one was supposed to get hurt. And nobody else will. If you give me my phone, Joe, and get out of my way, Wolf snarled. My, what big teeth he has, I thought. Where was Chief Goose? Hold it, shrieked Spider. Talk about wrapping up a case. What's going on here? Chief Goose had arrived. It seems that the howling wind this morning was actually Wolf blowing down the pig's new house, and Humpty along with it, I told the chief. That's my theory anyways. What about Muffy? Chief asked. Actually, it's a conspiracy theory, I said. Wolf promised our little Miss muffins in exchange for Humpty's binoculars. Without the binoculars, Humpty couldn't see Wolf blow down the pig's house. Apparently, the wolf also threatened to blow down the muffins man's shop unless he got free muffins, Chief Goose said. The guy's been hiding in a sack of sugar all day. Sweet, Wolf snarled. Muffy glared at him. I wouldn't have helped you if I'd known the truth. Humpty was my friend. Now he'll probably never speak to me again. You can always call from your jail cell to apologize, I told her. Your jail cell, that is. So why'd you do it, Wolf, I asked. I'm bad, he said, shrugging his shoulders. It's my middle name. I have to hand it to you, Joe, Chief Goose said. You were right. What happened to Humpty really was a crime. You weren't afraid to trust your gut and get to the bottom of this. I'm proud of you, Joe. I have to admit, I was proud of me too. And my brave friend Spider. In fact, Spider's the neighborhood watch captain while Humpty's healing. As for me, I've had plenty of cases to solve, dozens of them. In fact, word on the street is that Dish ran away with the spoon. And then there's my friend Bo Peep, that is. The dame keeps me in business. Now if I were a sheep, where would I go? The end. So that was the story. What really happened to Humpty? Leave me a comment below if you guessed what actually happened to Humpty before I read the last of the book. I also want to say that this is the only reading assignment we have this week. So after you listen to me read the story, go ahead and you can do one of two things. You can either go ahead and take the quiz on the story, which is on Lit Pro, or you can read your own book on Lit Pro and take a quiz on it, okay? And after you do one of those two things, then you need to get on Word and do about 10 to 20 minutes of Word. Since this is our only assignment for reading this week, we need to get some Word time in, okay? So make sure you listen to my story all the way through, which if you got to this point, you obviously did. And then you either take this quiz or read another book and take that quiz, and then work on Word. Okay, I hope you guys have a great week. I will see you soon. Bye.